Hey everybody, Father Dave got another video for you. This time it's about sourdough bread. So I love sourdough bread. I go to Alaska. I guess it's going to be my 11th year going up to Alaska. I work as a missionary in the Diocese of Juneau. In case you happen to be watching this and you're not one of my parishioners, absolutely love it. And I work in the town of Skagway at St. Teresa's, the little church up there. Love it, love it, love it. And a couple years ago, I got into bread baking, and particularly sourdough bread baking. And so I made my first sourdough starter up in Alaska. I got it alive, learned how to do it by watching videos, and got it to live, packed it up. It survived TSA and the ride home, made it back to Jersey, opened up the top, all this gas came out, kind of like if you had beans at your friend's house. That's why you never eat beans on a date, because you want to end the date early. Maybe that's good advice. Maybe that's not. That's another video. Anyway, and don't worry, no rapping in this. We're just going to talk about bread and a little bit of the faith and the coronavirus. How are they related together? So, long story short, made this in Alaska. It lived, and I've been baking sourdough bread since. And I made all kinds of loaves, and I made cinnamon raisin rye and regular rye bread and walnut. My friend Annette said, "Hey, why don't you put walnut in it?" It was absolutely delicious. Love it, love it, love it. What does this have to do with the coronavirus? So it's advisable, right? The CDC is telling us that, it's good to have up to 2 weeks worth of food in your house, just in case this thing really does spread, and it's advisable not to go to areas where there's lots of people. Great. Okay, Father Dave, that makes some sense. Yep, and you want to make sure you have your paper towel. This is my giant roll of paper towel. See, that's as big as the door frame. Right? No, that's just the way the camera works. This little tablet. All right, so yeah, you want to have your toilet paper, you want to have your medicine, you want to have your vitamins, you want to make sure you have paper towels, you want to make sure you have soups, water, stuff like that up to 2 weeks so you don't have to travel around. Okay. Well, what I was thinking as a priest, and I'm not an expert on, emergency survival. I am a bit of a prepper, so actually I can kind of nerd out on that, but I won't do that in this video. But, okay, so you're making a plan so that, you have your cough medicine ahead of time, so that if everybody gets sick and there's a run on cough medicine, hey, you have that. You have your cold and flu medicine to help you with the symptoms of this coronavirus, should it really spread. Okay, and you're making a plan for church, and you expect me to say that, yep, if there's a problem, you know what, I'll film Mass. I'll say a private Mass. I'll film it. My friend Jess, our music minister, she'll play the music. I'll put it in the video, and you can click and watch Mass on YouTube at the convenience of your home. You just can't eat sourdough bread an hour before you watch the video. Otherwise, you can watch the video and watch Mass anytime you want on that Sunday. Okay, but here's what I want to tell you. Make a plan for your neighbor. Right, so most people think of their property. They think of like, all right, well, I'm going to be safe because I'm getting water from, the rain. I have a rain water bucket. I actually do. Or you have a water filter, right? Or you're getting water, you bought water. Or you've got enough food to go 2 weeks. You got your soups, your crackers, your peanut butter. You got your Girl Scout cookies, your bag of Doritos to help you through a disaster, all that stuff. All right, that's great. And that's stuff that you should have: matches, candles, board games. But if you had to stay home, well, what's your plan for your neighbor? Jesus says, what you do for the least of my brothers, you do for me. And in Alaska, everybody thinks of their neighbor. They try to help out their neighbor. You can't make it through those rough winters without caring for your neighbor, right? And so I figured, let's combine these things, right? In the gospel that we hear on the weekend, at the Mount of Transfiguration, the apostles are up there on the mountain with Jesus, and Peter's like, let's make, 3 tents, one for Moses and one for Elijah, one for Jesus. And so, think about that. What is your plan for your neighbor? If there's a disaster, it's advisable that we stay home. Well, your neighbor, hopefully they have food. Maybe they've prepared, maybe they haven't. But you can prepare for them. Certainly prepare for your family, your wife, your kids, your husband. But this would be kind of fun. Like if you're a bread baker, and I'm an amateur sourdough bread baker, and I love it. And I made a lot of crappy loaves and a lot of really good ones, some really incredible ones. I call these are like my Lazarus loaves because they're half risen, right? They didn't get the oven spring. They didn't rise for very long. Like Lazarus, he went to heaven, but then his butt was kicked back down here for a short time. That's another story. But, if a disaster happens and we're called to stay at home, whether that's this or a hurricane or something in the future, think about your neighbor. and like maybe get an extra couple cans of soup, and say, you know what, I'm going to drop these off at the 4 houses around me, and I'm going to make brownies, and the first tray of brownies is going to be split, between my 2 neighbors, whatever that is. And for me, it's sourdough, and so you could have some fun before something bad happens, and get enough supplies to make some sourdough, and say, I'm going to perfect my loaf, and if something happens, I'm going to show up at my neighbor's house, and I'll knock on the door wearing a gas mask and a Darth Vader outfit, and drop my sourdough and be like, "This is for you." But all right, so that's being kind of dramatic, but like, think to feed the people around you, not just you. In sourdough, all those yeasts help it rise, right? So like, this was half the size this morning before I went over for morning mass. It was like really low, and I fed it, and because it doesn't receive communion, so it could eat before mass, but I can't. And it rose up, and that's like us as Catholics, as Christians. We follow Jesus, so we're called to help raise the culture around us. And in a disaster, it doesn't have to be a time of where you're like fearful for, or just thinking of your own family. Like, let's think of the people around us, and if enough of us do it at St. Martha's, we're great people. We could really help lift this whole culture and help lift this whole little town and all of the towns that contribute to coming to St. Martha's. So think about that. What are you going to bake should the coronavirus hit? Let me know in the comments below, and God bless you.